to this Jets Overtime Draft Recap Special presented by Dunkin'. The Jets run on Dunkin'.
Welcome to the 2025 NFL Draft in Green Bay, Wisconsin. With the 7th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the New York Jets select Armand Membou, Missouri.
Armand.
What up?
Darren Moody, GM of the Jets.
How
You
you
ready to
doing?
be a Jet?
You let out a primal scream. That's what he did right there. That was fantastic.
The New York Jets select Mason Taylor, tight end, LSU.
To Mason Taylor as the big man strides down the field.
AZ, what's up, bro?
How's it going, Coach?
Listen, everything we saw about you, man, you in somebody's face, man. So we want you to bring that here, all right? Go up there, impress them, and choke them out. All right? That's your specialty, all right? Yeah,
Yes, sir.
you know that. My man.
Arian Smith behind the defender. He is one of the fastest men in college football.
Perfect fit, honestly. You know, people call me. That's kind of my nickname in the during the combine training. People would call me. They'd be like, "Hey, what's up, the Jet?"
When I got that call and that New York number popped up, I was excited, man. It was definitely a surreal moment.
Coach Wilkes here. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Coach. How about you?
I'm doing outstanding now. Glad to get you on board, my friend.
I mean, this is just a day where I just feel like the little kid in me got to live out his dream. So I'm just incredibly fortunate, just very, very beyond blessed.
I think the number one thing is we really got guys that fit the brand of who we're going to be. Tough, physical, violent, aggressive, a resilient attitude. If we continue to get guys like that, I mean, you'll start to see the brand show up.
Welcome into Jets Overtime. Our NFL Draft Recap is presented by Dunkin'. I'm Eric Allen, joined by Brian Baldinger and Leger Douzable. Gentlemen, it was a brand weekend for the New York Jets. They were intentional and wanted tough, physical, violent, aggressive, and resilient players. Leger, what jumps out to you about the Jets' 2025 draft class?
Yeah, something that you alluded to, EA, the physicalness of some of the draft picks they had, starting off with Armand Membou. This is a guy that has probably the highest upside at tackle in this draft. An athletic freak at 330 pounds, ran a 4.91 40 in the 40-yard dash, but you see it on tape. It's not just straight line speed. His ability to cut off on the backside defensive tackles, his ability to climb to the second level. And then, Baldy, they talk about pass protection. It's not passive with this guy. He has elite footwork, and then he's physical when it comes to punching guys in their chest in his pass pro. So that was the one thing that really stuck out to me, EA. They really attack the physicalness when it comes to these draft picks.
Baldy, we talked for months if it was going to be tackle or tight end early for the Jets, and it ended up being both. They got Armand Membou in the first round, and then they came back in the second round and got their tight end, LSU's Mason Taylor.
The Jets nailed it. I mean, they got this right. You know, they fixed the offense line. The right tackle is a glaring hole. Membou is exactly what Leger just said. I mean, he is a tank that can move, and he's got a lot real power with a real upside. And then Mason Taylor is a tight end that they've been looking for that I think has great potential. Obviously, the bloodlines to his father, Jason Taylor, are real. And so I'm excited. I'm excited because I felt like they needed to give the best supporting cast to Justin Fields that they could to get him off and running and get him started on the right track. And they got two pieces, I think, that they can plug and play day one.
Deuce, can you speak to how Membou is a mentality pick for this team, for this organization?
Yeah, when you just look at all the picks, not just on day one, but on day 2 and 3 as well, Aaron Glenn and Darren Moody definitely wanted to attack guys that were physical. They wanted to have a physical type of brand when it came to the draft, and Armand Membou fits that build. We talked about it earlier, how he's able to not only cut off on the backside, but how he finishes blocks. Like, turn on that Texas A&M tape. Like, they had multiple ends go high in this draft. I'm talking about first, second round. He dominated both of those guys, play in and play out. And people will talk about, yeah, there's some things he needs to work on technique-wise, but the upside is there when you talk about being an athletic offensive tackle, having really good footwork for somebody that size, 330 pounds. And again, the finish, that's what really stands out to UEA. This guy finishes on defenders, and he finishes in the blocking game.
Baldy, let youth be served here for the Jets because Mason Taylor was the youngest player in the entire draft class, the most productive tight end in LSU history, and that's saying something.
129 catches. And you think about, the LSU production at wide receiver. I mean, he had to wait for Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors and some of those guys to move on before he got a chance to really shine. And so, but look, he caught passes from Jaden Daniels, a lot of big games. You watch him run, and there's just not a lot of guys that are that big at 6'5", 250 that are that smooth. And, when I said a couple weeks ago, he reminds you of the way that he runs. Look, the production of Travis Kelce is off the charts, but he looks like Travis Kelce running.
All right, fellas, we're off and running. Let's bring in Caroline Hendershot and Ethan Greenberg to discuss Mason Taylor's New York homecoming.
On April 20th, 2010, the Jets signed a defensive end from their AFC East rival, the Miami Dolphins. Jason Taylor joined the Jets with a decorated resume. He was a 6-time Pro Bowler, 3-time first-team All-Pro. He led the NFL in sacks in 2002 and was the Defensive Player of the Year in 2006.
And in his one season with the Jets, Taylor helped the NFL's 3rd overall defense to the AFC Championship for the 2nd year in a row. And off the field, he and his family lived in Manhattan, where his son Mason Taylor made some of his early memories rooting for his dad wearing the green and white. 15 years later, Mason will begin his NFL career in the same locker room where his dad played.
Mason played tight end at LSU for 3 seasons before declaring for the draft and eventually becoming the 42nd overall pick last weekend. Not only did he become the most productive tight end in LSU history in career catches and receiving yards, but he also was one of the most consistent with at least 1 reception in 37 of the 38 games in his collegiate career.
And while Jason Taylor did most of his damage in the NFL with the Dolphins, he couldn't be more excited to put on a green and white uniform again, just with a different number.
Hey Jets fans, it's Mason Taylor. Super excited to get up to New York. Can't wait to get started.
Man, it's been a long time since I said this, but
This segment is presented by Dunkin'. The Jets run on Dunkin'.
Welcome back to Jets Overtime. Our NFL Draft Recap is presented by Dunkin'. I'm Eric Allen, joined by Brian Baldinger and Leger Douzable. Deuce, the Jets got day 3 of the draft started with Georgia wide receiver Arian Smith. What did you think about the pick? And I'll tell you what, the Jets obviously had the need for speed.
Yeah, and that's what he brings to the table, the need for speed. Now, people will make light of his concentration drops. I believe he had 10 last year at Georgia. But going back the year before that, didn't really have any drops at all. So you think that's something that could get rectified with one of the best receiver coaches in Sean Jefferson here with the New York Jets. He's going to get the best out of Arian Smith. But you talk about getting Garrett Wilson some space in the middle of the field, put Arian Smith out there and just let him run deep. That's going to hold that middle field safety. And that's, I think, what the Jets are thinking by bringing in Arian Smith.
Baldy, what do you make of the fit here? Here's a guy in Smith who averaged nearly 20 yards a catch in college.
He can fly. He can flat out fly. I mean, this is sometimes, there's stopwatch speed and you're like, but when you watch that guy run through zones and, man coverage in the SEC, this guy can flat out fly. And so Georgia's only recruiting 4- and 5-star recruits, across the board, but his speed is noticeable. Now, does he need to get on the jug machine and he needs to catch 1 million balls? He's got to do all that. And so that's the challenge right now. But you're not going to see many guys that can run like this. So it is really noticeable how he just separates so quickly. And so then it's a question of just building that confidence up with his hands and working on it because he hadn't had a lot of opportunities. He kept a lot of footballs at Georgia.
Leger, I thought it was very interesting when Aaron Glenn brought up Jameson Williams last weekend when referencing Smith.
Yeah, without a doubt. You could tell they had a type in mind when going after Arian Smith because they saw what Jameson Williams has done over his couple years at Detroit and really took off this last year, being a nice piece next to the sun god Amon-Ra St. Brown. So when I talked about getting some space for Garrett Wilson in the middle of the field, that's essentially what Jameson Williams does for Amon-Ra St. Brown because you have to respect that speed. And Arian Smith has that same type of speed that Jameson Williams has.
Ball, do you think it was a concerted effort by the Jets to surround Justin Fields with more weapons? You get Mason Taylor in the 2nd round, you come back and get Arian Smith in the 4th round, and then you fortify What's in front of Justin Fields with the pick of big lineman Armand Membou?
No question, EA. I mean, it's about building around your quarterback. They've identified Justin Fields as a starter. Give him as much help as possible, starting up front with, filling that right tackle need, giving him a tight end that can really run with a good, good size and good target. And then you just add speed, and like what they did with Arian Smith. I mean, I thought they just nailed this whole process right now.
Dudes, right now, it's early, but do you project Membou and Taylor being starters and Smith being a guy who's going to work into some formations? You're going to try to get him the ball, and he's going to contribute immediately on special teams.
Yes, I could see Armand Membou starting from day one at right tackle. There was a void there, and they filled it with him with a top 10 pick. I believe Mason Taylor will end up starting as well, but I think it's going to be a nice camp battle between him and Jeremy Ruckner. Let's not forget, Stone Smart is a guy that's more of a flex tight end that they can get the ball to in the red zone with that big frame he has as well. But I do believe Mason Taylor ultimately starts, and then Smith, maybe even the return game could be big for him, right? Because he has that type of home run speed on special teams. So he's a guy that I think they'll try to sprinkle into the offense and then also see what he can do in the return game.
Everyone has a journey and a special path to get to the National Football League. For more on the new Jets, here are Caroline and Ethan.
Everyone has a different path to the NFL, whether it's first-round pick Armand Membou, whose parents immigrated from Cameroon, and their first language is actually French.
Or whether it's fourth-round pick Arian Smith, choosing Georgia for football and track after he anchored the United States gold medal World U20 4x1 relay team.
But for Jets draft picks Azareye'h Thomas and Kiko Maui-Noah, their path to the league was not straightforward. Thomas moved around Florida as a kid and was homeless for a stretch after his father tragically set fire to their home when Thomas was 2 months old.
Azareye'h and his siblings had to relocate a couple of times within the Panhandle. In 6th grade, he made varsity, and then as a junior in high school, Thomas accounted for 1,125 all-purpose yards, 14 touchdowns, and did not allow a touchdown in coverage.
Thomas played 3 seasons at Florida State before declaring for the draft and only allowed 17 receptions on 33 targets this past season.
Maui-Noah was born and raised in American Samoa, where he began his high school football career at quarterback. He and his younger brother Francis later moved to California to live with a host family to continue their football career in hopes of receiving more recruiting attention.
And after finding success as not only a quarterback but also a linebacker, the COVID-19 pandemic forced Maui-Noah to return to American Samoa. And after starting his senior year on the island, he then transferred midway through to the IMG Academy in Florida.
After 2 years at Washington State and then another 2 at Miami, where he led the team in tackles each season, Maui-Noah's sacrifice paid off.
Not only are Maui-Noah and Thomas entering a new chapter of their football careers, but they also have found a new place to call home. And when we return on Jets Overtime, EA, Dudes, and Baldy break down the draft picks on defense.
Celebrate Mom and Style. Lock in 2025 Jets season tickets and receive a free game day ready Kendra Scott necklace for Mother's Day at nyjets.com/Mother's Day. Terms and conditions apply. You are watching Jets Overtime. Our NFL Draft Recap is presented by Duncan. Eric Allen here in studio, joined by Brian Baldinger and Leger Douzable. Dudes, cornerback wasn't in need heading into the draft, but the Jets went with value there in the 3rd round with cornerback Azareye'h Thomas out of Florida State.
Yeah, I go back to what GM Darren Muji said after taking Thomas in the 3rd round. He said 5 pivotal words. We stuck to our board. And I love that, right? Because the value was so great in the 3rd round. A lot of people had Thomas potential as a late 1st round, early 2nd round pick. And to get him in the 3rd round, yes, it wasn't a dire need on this team, but the value outweighed maybe taking somebody for need at that position. So when you look at Thomas, this is a guy that fits Aaron Glenn's mold. We talk about a big, long corner that likes to mix it up in man coverage. And yes, he didn't run a great 40 time, but he plays a lot faster than that 40 time. And with the arm length that he has, this is what people don't understand, Baldy. You can kind of mitigate some of your speed by arm length as far as putting your arms in the throwing windows of quarterbacks or even attacking the football once it's in the air. You don't have to be as close as another defender that doesn't have an arm as long as yours. That's where he makes up his speed, by his arm length and his tenacity. I love the pick in the 3rd round.
Real quick, I mean, you're talking about a 6'1.5" corner that's almost 200 pounds, and you just don't see a lot of press corners in college. You just don't. But he's not afraid to put his hands on guys, to Leger's point, And that seems to be his specialty, press man coverage. And everybody's looking for somebody that can do that. I mean, the reigning defensive player of the year is who that guy is. And now, and now it's just a question of just getting out there and, and learning some of these receivers, because you gotta go through the lineup here to kind of figure out who you can get your hands on and who you have to back off on.
Leger, before the draft, Lions safety Brian Branch told Aaron Glenn that Malachi Moore was a dog. So what do the Jets do on draft weekend? They move up and they draft the Alabama defensive back.
You're getting a guy that cares. This is a two-time captain at the University of Alabama. You can't scoff at that, right? That is one of the most prestigious football programs in the nation, and he was a two-time captain there. He's a free safety by nature, and Balding, I know we talked about this during the pre-draft shows, that the Jets have an abundance of free safeties, but I think because of his lack of foot speed, I think he'll make the transition to strong safety. Because he plays with tenacity, he's like almost a bullet out of the middle of the field as far as coming downhill in the alley and hitting guys. He plays with a tenacity that Aaron Glenn is going to love. This is a guy that also tracks the ball really well and has really good instincts. And then you talk about special teams, because where he went in the draft in the 4th round, that's where you're looking for special teams value. Not only was he a starter on defense, Baldy, he was a starter on special teams. So he's going to come in from day one and help you on special teams.
He played 5 years for an elite program. So, I mean, he's seen a lot of guys come and go from that program, including Brian Branch. He's been well coached. I mean, that's what Nick Saban coached. He coached the secondary. So they play a lot of coverages. This is not, a guy that's just been in quarter coverage. He's all over the field. They match up. You're going up against some elite offenses in that conference. He's seen a lot of football, and he's played a lot. And you're bringing a lot of experience to the table right there.
Hey, Deuce, the Jets ended the draft with a pair of Hurricanes. What can you tell us about Kiko Manoa? He seems like a thumper, a guy who's all over the place, and maybe he'll be able to help immediately on special teams.
Yeah, Mauagoa fits that mold and what we talked about earlier. Yeah, he's a physical player. He's a downhill linebacker that does not shy away from contact. Now, he has had some struggles disengaging from offensive linemen, but he's willing to get down there in the grit and is determined to make plays on running backs. He's also pretty good in zone coverage. He matches really well in zone coverage, and they love using him as a blitzer. If you know anything about Aaron Glenn and Coach Wilkes, they like to bring pressure, so he can definitely do that blitzing off the edge for this defense. But I believe on day one, he'll be more of a special teams guy, and he'll be a backup linebacker, and he'll get to learn behind two of the youngest and better linebackers in this league. And then you talk about Tyler Barron. To me, he kind of reminds me of Jermaine Johnson, a guy that's already on this roster with the physicalness that he plays with. Like when you watch his tape, right, a lot of things are speed to power. That's how it was for Jermaine Johnson as well, till he got to the Senior Bowl. Then you saw a bevy of pass rush moves, which means that he has pass rush ability. I saw the same thing from Barron at the East-West. He was throwing chop clubs. He was spinning, things I hadn't seen on tape. So you know the upside is there in regards to getting after the passer. So I think he's going to fit in really nice because he kind of fits that mold of Jermaine Johnson. Who better to learn from in regards to getting to extending your game and being a better player in the NFL.
Don't go anywhere because we're going to be handing out some awards in the Jets 2025 draft class.
This segment is presented by Dunkin'. The Jets run on Dunkin'.
You're watching Jets Overtime. Our NFL Draft Recap is presented by Dunkin', Eric Allen with Brian Baldinger and Leger Douzable. Deuce, best value pick.
I'm going to say, I know it's the first round, but I'm going to say Armand Membu, just because it solidifies your offensive line and everybody is 27 years or younger.
Baldy?
I'll say Membu as well. I mean, the tackles went quickly in this draft. The ones at the very top, you had to get them early and use the 7th pick on it. Congratulations. Plug him at right tackle. Let's put this thing together.
Pick you absolutely loved.
Mason Taylor, without a doubt, he'll be able to stretch down the seam. And that's the thing at LSU. They didn't really use him that way because they have such good receivers there. They kind of use him as an RPO guy to the flat, and they used him in the red zone. But I think he really will be an issue with his speed for safeties and linebackers down the seam.
Yeah, I mean, look, the tight ends went also. You know, I mean, we knew Warren and Loveland were going to go. Taylor was the next one. There was 3 elite tight ends, and the Jets got one of them.
Soon, the Jets 2025 rookie class will join the veterans on the grass. The schedule is also coming out in a few weeks, and football is around the corner. Thanks for joining us today and throughout the draft season.